Today I'm excited to cover a Thunderbolt 3 docking station. If you're interested in learning more about what this dock can do, then definitely stick around for the rest of this video. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, click that notifications icon so you'll be notified of new content, and of course be supporting the channel. Before we get into the features and do some testing, I want to do a full disclosure that Hiearcool reached out to me and sent me this dock for review. They're not paying me for this review, nor are they influence it in any way. This video is strictly based on the experience I had with using the device for a while now. So let's get into the hardware itself. These three items actually come in the box. So we have our Thunderbolt 3 cable, our 120 watt power supply, and of course the dock itself. The dock itself is pretty sizable. This is a 13-inch laptop, so you can see just from the comparison that it's pretty substantial. It also has some rubber feet on it to keep it from sliding around too much, because when you get a lot of cables in this thing, it tends to want to move around. So overall, it seems to be pretty well built. So let's take a look at the port configuration. Starting over here, we have a couple of USB 3.0 Gen 1 ports. We have our host connector that attaches Thunderbolt to your laptop or computer. In addition to that, it can supply up to 100 watts of power delivery. And we have our connection to devices, our Thunderbolt connection to devices such as displays and other peripherals. Over here we have our SD and TF cards, or micro SD cards, and then we have a 3.5-inch audio jack. Over on this side we have our power input connector, which is where the 120 watt supply goes to. We have an Ethernet jack, an HDMI port, and three 10 gigabit USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports. So now that we've seen an overview of the hardware, let's go ahead and hook this thing up and test it. I plan on testing it against at least 2 devices, possibly 3 devices, so we can check for compatibility as well as performance. So I'm going to be using the Dell XPS 13 as my baseline, and all the benchmarks that you see will be from the Dell. It's a pretty popular laptop, so I figured that was a good place to start. I did, however, do a comparison to the Razer Stealth 13 and found the performance overall to be pretty similar. And in addition, I also ran the test against a 2019 MacBook Pro to see if there's any noticeable difference, and only saw a slight difference in SSD performance when attached to a USB 3.1 Gen 2, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So as you can see from the benchmark above, I'm pretty much saturating the gigabit performance. So the docking station in and of itself is not providing any slowdowns whatsoever, and it's giving me full gigabit performance across my network. Okay, here we're testing an SSD attached to the USB 3.1 Gen 2. We're seeing the speeds that I would expect to see from this particular drive, not necessarily the maximum output of a USB 3.1 Gen 2 port. But based on my running this drive directly on my system, I know kind of what I expect to see, and this is actually saturating the drive. This is one area where I saw a difference in the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro transferred a little bit faster, about 10 to 15% faster, but since it has a different file format, it was really hard to attribute whether it was in the port itself or whether just the differences in the file format. But the bottom line is this drive is being saturated through this docking station. So this is the performance I'm getting from the SD card reader. Nothing special here. This is about the same as I normally get off these particular brands of cards, as well as the card readers that I use. So that's about comparable. Before we get into the displays, I wanted to test a 2.5 gigabit USB adapter into this docking station to see if it would perform correctly. So as you can see, not only is it performing correctly, but it's actually saturating that 2.5 gigabit adapter. So there's no slowdowns being introduced by the docking stations whatsoever. So during my testing, I've been running 3 monitors the entire time, 2 external in addition to the laptop display, as well as a wireless keyboard and mouse. The docking station has an HDMI port that's capable of 4K 60 and a Thunderbolt output that can support either an 8K 60 or 2 4K 60 monitors, giving you some awesome expandability. For my testing, I was able to use a 4K 60 and a 1920 by 1200 60 Hz monitor on the HDMI in addition to the laptop display. As I don't have a Thunderbolt display that's capable of daisy chaining 2 monitors, I could only test 1 monitor on the HDMI and one 4K 60 on the Thunderbolt using a cable adapter. During my testing, I didn't see any issues with either port, and everything was recognized and detected correctly. Overall, this is a really awesome docking station, and given its 100-watt output and the number of ports, it's pretty good overall value. It was able to handle everything I could toss at it, and I didn't experience any issues once I got it set up. Though it was plug and play on the Dell and the Mac, I did have to install Thunderbolt drivers on my Razer laptop. I really want to thank Hiearcool for sending me this unit for review, and I'll leave an affiliate link below in case you want to check it out. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you haven't done so already, please support the channel by subscribing and selecting the notifications icon so you'll be notified of future content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.